Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. Hello, and let us begin this workshop on data mining. I will share my screen now. Okay, I hope that my screen is visible. Is it visible? Please let me know. Yes,
it is visible.
Yes.
Okay. And I will now share, do the slideshow, but Pedro, I need you to know that many times my laptop gets stuck when I do the slideshow, and then I have to escape it again and then start again. But I will do the slideshow now. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the PISTAR online workshop number 20. And this one is number 1 on data mining. Otherwise, it is the 20th online workshop. The first one was on the 27th of June, 2020, subsequent to the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic. Today's workshop is by Dr. Pedro Campos. Before I introduce him, I would like to share with everybody the vision statement of PISTAR, and you can read that. It's a statistically advanced society in Pakistan through professional development and research-based knowledge and information. The mission statement: to establish a state-of-the-art platform of highly capable statisticians to provide training and consultancy services for professional development and to promote a research culture leading to scientific and analytical thinking and to data-based sound decision-making through a dynamic organization, proactive client feedback system, and user-friendliness. My name is Saleha. I'm rendering honorary services as Executive Director here at PISTAR. Otherwise, I'm teaching at Kinnaird College for Women, one of the most prestigious institutions for women in Pakistan. The focal person of the PISTAR International Training Program through these online workshops is Dr. Syed Wasim Abbas, who is also the General Secretary of PISTAR and the Director at the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics. The PISTAR team, Mr. Muhammad Iftikhar, Executive Secretary ISOS, and also a pillar of ISOS and PISTAR. ISOS, by the way, for those who don't know, for example, I would like to let Dr. Pedro know that ISOS is the Islamic Countries Society of Statistical Sciences, founded by our mentor, my PhD supervisor, teacher, Professor Dr. Munir Ahmed, late Professor Dr. Munir Ahmed, back in 1988, I think it was. PISTAR, on the other hand, in the private sector, was started in 2017. Professor Muhammad Aslam, one of the senior most members of the PISTAR team, and served at the Foreman Christian College, which is now a university, FCCU, for a long time and headed the Department of Statistics for a very long time. Dr. Sharka Hashmi was serving at the Lahore College for Women University for about 22 years. And at this time, she's in another institution, the Jinnah Associate College for Women. After her promotion, she went there. Then Mr. Muhammad Jawad Mirza, he's a professional trainer, a great, real expert in Microsoft Excel and many other things he does, and also a very, very active member of the PISTAR team. Ms. Zulekha Mashkoor, who has been very, very active. At this time, she's on leave due to her personal reasons, but a very, very committed, dedicated person. And Dr. Haris Khurram, he did his PhD a few weeks ago. We are delighted for him. And he's serving as lecturer at the National University of Computer and Emerging Sciences in Chennai, at the Chennai Faisalabad campus. Ms. Kamal Aslam, who did MPhil Statistics and my direct student at Kinnaird College, now teaching in a school, and also a very committed member of the PISTAR team. Ms. Aqsa Abid, who completed her 4-year bachelor program at Kinnaird College. Again, my direct student, extremely hardworking young lady. All right, the international participants that we have with us today, I apologize for not having those names there right now, who joined, who said that they would join at a later stage. But we have Mr. Abdul Atif from Malaysia, Dr. Raza Arabi Bilaghi basically from Iran, but now in Canada, Dr. Joyce Otieno from Kenya, Dr. Ali Raza Safarian from Iran, Mr. Thomas Mavora, who is also about to complete his PhD within the next few weeks, I hope, from Kenya, Dr. Najla Karmala from Saudi Arabia. We have Dr. Daljit Singh Virk, who is right now here, and we will be adding your name, sir, in a short while. The national participants, Ms. Baliga Yunus, Dr. Shakil. I will let you all to please introduce yourselves, because Dr. Pedro has communicated to me that he very much wants you to introduce yourself. So I will not say much myself, but I would like you to introduce yourselves in a short while. Ms. Baliga Yunus, Dr. Shakila Bashir, Mr. Waqar Qureshi, Dr. Imran Anwar Ujan, Mr. Muhammad Abdul Salam, Dr. Asifa Kamal, Dr. Javed Iqbal, Dr. Naila Alam, Mr. Muhammad Awais Ashraf, Dr. Mr. Farooq Umar, and there may be some more who joined at a very late stage. And on the right side, you can see my name and my team's names, because we are also participating, we are also learning along with all the other people. All right, so the plan for the day, after the words of welcome, I would like, which I'll do after I finish this, what I'm saying now, the introduction of participants. So everybody may please tell a little bit about yourself. Introduction of Dr. Pedro will be doing after that, and then it will be over to him, and he will be doing presentations along with you people and all of us, whoever have been successful in downloading RapidMiner, or I'm sure many people already had on their laptops, but we also need RapidMiner. So all of us who have it, they will be practicing, and the others will hopefully be watching, because I will ask people to share their screens. And then we'll have a break, a 10-minute break at 3:45, according to the Asr prayer time here in Lahore, Pakistan. And then we will have further presentation on data mining, along with further practice moderated by Dr. Pedro. And then we will have a Q&A session if it is required. And very importantly, we will have feedback from participants, because obviously that is important for me and my team, and also important for our highly respectable learned resource person. And then closing remarks and group photograph. I have requested Dr. Ali Ahmed, who is the Senior Vice President of PISTAR, to join if possible. She's quite busy at this time. If she is able to join, I will request her to say a few words. Ladies and gentlemen, I have now the privilege to introduce Dr. Pedro. I'm making a slight mistake here. I will do this later. I will first stop sharing, and I will ask everybody to start introducing themselves. And after that, I will introduce Dr. Pedro in a formal manner. So I think we can start. I have already introduced my own team. We only want introductions of all the other people. So I think, Thomas, would you please, if possible, if you would please, yes, if you would open your camera, because, you know, here in some of the Eastern countries, the culture is maybe more of hiding, but it's better if you don't hide, and if everybody can open their cameras, that would be great. So over to you, Thomas. Could you tell us who are you?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Professor Saleha and the entire PISTAR team. And also I look forward to the training by Professor Pedro. My name is Thomas Mawora. I come from a country called Kenya. It is in East Africa. Probably we are known for long distance running, the marathon and things like that. but I don't run myself. I'm the exact opposite. I have taken statistics from undergraduate to postgraduate level. And as Professor Lea said, I'm right now a candidate for PhD. I also really love working, learning R, and I'm really interested in data science. I think this session is very appropriate for me. I've seen Jess has come, so I think she'll introduce herself. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. I'll go according to the how I see them row by row. So over to you, Mr. Muhammad Abdul Salam. Could you please introduce yourself?
And thank you, Dr. Saleha. Well, this is Abdul Salam. I'm from Pakistan. I'm basically, serving at the State Bank of Pakistan. It is the central bank of Pakistan. I've been serving from the last 19 years in State Bank of Pakistan as a statistician. But recently, I have been promoted to, a senior economist position. So I'm a statistician turned economist right now. So I hope that this course, this data mining workshop will definitely help me, inshallah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And the next one, Ms. Baliga Yunus. Baliga, over to you.
I'm a student of PhD in education. I'm studying and working in Lahore College of Women University. I hope to learn from this course. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, who's the next one in line? I have to see. Dr. Imran, could you please open your camera and, oh, I missed Alvin. I am sorry. On my screen, Alvin's camera is next. Okay, over to you, Alvin. And Alvin is with us for the first time. I'm so delighted. So please tell us about yourself.
Sure. Good evening, Saleha. Thank you. Alvin here from Central Bank of Malaysia. I'm currently with the legal department. It's a bit odd with a crowd of, I believe, all of you statisticians mostly. So my purpose here is really for a just learn very basic things on data mining. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you so much. I see Dr. Virk, your camera now. Previously, I couldn't see it. So please, if you would introduce yourself.
Myself, Dr. Daljit Singh Virk. I am basically Indian but settled in UK. I am retired from Bangor University in Wales, professor in plant breeding and genetics. I am professionally not a statistician, but statistics is my interest. And I have used it a lot in my experiments, in my genetics, quantitative genetics as well. So I'm thankful to Dr. Saleha for giving me the opportunity to be with you today. And I have also attended 2 previous workshops, very exceptionally trained people we had. And today again, we have Dr. Pedro. So I am retired and I have experience in working in Africa, many countries in Africa and South Asia. So I have worked internationally a lot for 30 years, have developed a number of varieties which are very popular. On the basis of impact created on the farmers, I was awarded OBE by the Queen 2 years back. So thank you very much. I will enjoy the input today. Thanks.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very, very much. It's an honor to have you, and we are looking forward to your invited talk in the conference, which is happening on the 12th of March. I will be talking more about that later. Okay, I now request Mr. Waqar Qureshi, if you could unmute your mic, and also if you can open your camera, that would be nice. Thank you.
My name is Mohammad Waqar Qureshi. I am from Pakistan. I am doing research, and I am student of MPhil Economics, and that is from my end, and it's very important. So thank you.
What's very important? You can complete that.
And data mining workshop is very important for me.
Thank you. Dr. Imran, over to you, please.
Assalamualaikum. And
Welcome.
good morning to good afternoon to everyone. I am Dr. Imran from Pakistan. I am not a statistician, but my field is the computer systems and information system. I am a personal performance. I did my PhD from Malaysia in information systems, and data mining is nowadays a very good subject and current constraints in the research. So I want to learn the data mining with Prof. Pedro. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Shakila, it's your turn. Dr. Shakila Bashir.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning. It's me, Dr. Shakila Bashir, Associate Professor, Department of Statistics, Foreman Christian College, Chartered University, Lahore, Pakistan.
And you want to continue to hide and not open your camera? Okay. Whatever is makes you comfortable. Thank you so much, Dr. Shakila. She was with us at CANAID for a few years, and she has produced so many papers in the area of probability distributions. I'm so impressed by the number of papers she's done at a very young age. Okay, thank you. And now I would like to request Dr. Asifa Kamal to please introduce herself.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Good afternoon. I am Asifa Kamal. I am Associate Professor of Statistics at Lahore College for Women University, Lahore. And I'm also heading the Department of Statistics. I am Coordinator of Laboratory for Interdisciplinary Statistical Analysis, LCWU. And I am also the member of LISA 2020 program, University of Colorado Boulder. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Asifa. Okay, we now have Ms. Sadaf Malik. Sadaf, if you could please open your camera also if possible and introduce yourself.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
My name is Sadaf Malik and I am from Pakistan. I have done my MS Statistics from Lahore College for Women University, and currently I am working as a visiting lecturer in the Department of Statistics from Lahore College for Women University. And I'm very interested to learn data mining from R, as I have done many data analysis in other softwares also. So my interest is do analysis in different data sets. Hope I will learn from here.
I'm sure you will.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's the first time that you are with us also.
Yes,
so welcome,
yes.
welcome to the PISTAR Forum. And now we have Dr. Joyce Otieno from Kenya. Joyce, if you could please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joyce Otieno. I come from Kenya. Hello. I come from Kenya like Thomas does. I work at Maseno University in the Department of Statistics. I have been a teacher for very long in secondary school, and now I lecture at the university. I hope I learn more from this particular workshop.
Thank you so much. You're such a hardworking person. You will be learning more than others, I think. Thank you for that. Okay, now my team is thinking, why were we deprived of introducing ourselves? I think they will be after me. So I'll allow you very, very short time. All my team members very quickly introduce yourselves. We can start with Mr. Iftikhar. Iftikhar sir, if you could open your camera, I'll be grateful. And also tell us about yourself. Okay, he's not
my camera is not working at the moment. I am very delighted to present and listen all of you. It is very good workshop series. I hope more people will join in coming to workshops. Inshallah.
Yes, and if inshallah, if they do, then they will be, of course, they can go through the recording of this one, so they can catch up with it.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. I don't see Dr. I do see, of course, Professor Muhammad Aslam. Professor Aslam, I think he's got disconnected. Is disconnected right now? Is joining again? Okay, okay. Professor Aslam, if you could Open your camera, I'll be grateful. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Professor Muhammad Aslam. I worked as a teacher of statistics in Formal Christian College for 42 years. And after retiring from there, I am with the Park Institute of Statistical Training and Research, and doing whatever I can for this institute. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So it was 42 years. Wow.
Yes.
That's great. And of course, you are one of the pillars of PISTAR itself. So I would now want to ask Dr. Sharka, but I don't see her. What about Dr. Wasim? Of course, I have to first ask Dr. Wasim to open his camera and tell us about yourself, Dr. Wasim Abbas. Hello, Dr. Wasim. Okay, maybe he needs something. Assalamualaikum. Yes.
I'm Dr. Wasim Abbas. I'm working as a director in Pakistan Bureau of Statistics, Lahore. I'm dealing with data related to agriculture census and population census. Nowadays, we are working on 7 population and housing census going to be commenced in Pakistan this year. And side by side, I'm working with Dr. Saleh Nagmi as a PISTAR team. So we are here to highlight the meaning of Dr. Munir Ahmed to make some statistical contribution in the society. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Saleh.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wasim. I now want to request Dr. Mr. Jawad Mirza to please say a few words. Can't hear you. It's muted. Okay.
Mohammad Jawad Mirza from Pakistan, and I'm a statistician. Also, I did masters in business administration, MBA in marketing, and previous to that, I did a course on management information system. That was my PGD. And then I joined the industry in 1995 and still working with the industry with different organizations and for different organizations. Nowadays, I am conducting Microsoft Excel workshops in the industry and in the universities. And attached with PISTAR since 2013-14, and now working as a PISTAR team member. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I need to correct you. It would be 2017 or 18 because it was started in 2017. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, we have Kamal, my dear student, Kamal Aslam. Could you please open your camera and introduce yourself? Kamal, are you there? Miss Kamal Aslam. Okay, maybe there's some problem. And in the meantime, Dr. Ali Raza Safarian joined. I somehow missed asking him earlier. Apologies for that. So Ali Raza, could you please open your camera and introduce yourself?
Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ali Raza Safarian, PhD of Statistics from Iran. And I'm working on some parts of statistics. Usually, I'm working on machine learning and the network data analysis and image processing. I'm so happy to be here again with PISTAR lovely team. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, in the previous workshops, 1 or 2 times we had these introductions, and somebody gave feedback that a lot of time was consumed and they would have rather had more of the teaching done by the resource person. But I think that I appreciate the fact that Dr. Pedro Campos asked me that he wanted the introductions because he wanted to have a sense of, like he wants to know who are the people that he is going to be addressing. So I appreciate all of you doing this for us. And after this, now we are going to start in a short while. I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to introduce to you Dr. Pedro Campos. I'm going to ask you, are you able to see my screen now?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And one more time, I'll try the slideshow. I hope it doesn't get stuck. This is Pedro. And his academic degrees, PhD in Business and Management Studies from the University of Porto in 2008, post-graduation in Statistical Demography and Sampling Theory back in 1997, a degree in Applied Mathematics and Statistics, Porto University. Please do accept my apologies in advance if I'm not pronouncing some of the words properly. Current position, he is assistant professor at the University of Porto, Faculty of Economics, with the following teaching activities: statistics and computer science. The main courses that he teaches: statistics, database marketing, information systems, multi-agent simulation, data analysis. This is in the PhD programs. Main research interest. His main research interests are data science, network mining, artificial intelligence, multi-agent systems, and statistical education, of course, that I know very well because I am also a member of IASC. Main research areas, applications of applications are demography, marketing and analytics, and organizational networks. Since 2019, Pedro is also the head of the methodology unit at Statistics Portugal, the National Statistical Office, in the Department of Methodology and Information Systems, managing the areas of sampling frames, methods and algorithms, statistical confidentiality, small area estimation, and statistical education, among others. I just want to stop reading further his resume for a second and say to Pedro that because of these two words, sampling frames and all these other words, I would like to invite you right now to be one of the invited speakers at the conference that is going to happen on the 12th of March by PISTAR online, and which is being sponsored by the IASS, the International Association of Survey Statisticians. Thank you very much. I will continue. Pedro's additional current positions and roles: Deputy Director of the International Statistical Literacy Project, ISLP. Some of you will remember that last year, Pakistan participated in this ISLP poster competition for the first time. And lo and behold, our team from the University of Gujarat, 2 students and their teacher, our team won in the entire world, which is just so great. And Pedro has been working for ISLP for so many years. Very, very important contribution. Researcher at LIAAD, the Laboratory of Artificial Intelligence and Decision Support of INESC DEC, where he coordinates the research line of agent-based modeling. Pedro, I did this, I mean, for the first time in my life, I got exposed to agent-based modeling in Santa Fe in New Mexico in 2007, when I was selected for that very, very, very high-level program. And it was amazing. I mean, it was just amazing, agent-based modeling. Maybe the next series of workshops from you will have to be on agent-based modeling. Pedro's additional current positions and roles: Director of the Postgraduate Course on Business Intelligence and Analytics at Porto Business School, PBS. So PBS WASIM does not only stand for the Pakistan Bureau of Statistics, but also for Porto Business School. Okay, past positions: member of the Eurostat Expert Group for Statistical Disclosure Control, Vice President of IASC, member of the Academic Council at Porto Business School, Director of the Dissemination Unit at Statistics Portugal. Now, I'm not going to read all these. This is a short list of his publications. And he has also written these books and book chapters, at least one I can see here, and projects. Next generation technologies for networked Europe. Wow. Macro to nano human sensing towards integrated multimodal or multimodal health monitoring and analytics, towards smart interacting blocks that improve learned or learned advice. And the other language, the Portuguese, I suppose I cannot read. I'm going to the next slide. Exploristica or Exploristica, Adventures in Statistics. New project for the virtualization of educational contents for official statistics to appear in 2018, etc. International visiting fellowships. Okay, PhD theses that were defended. MSc, more than 100 MSc theses supervised. Ongoing PhD theses. And I can go on, but I think I will stop here. So now, let me talk about the contents of the workshop series. In this series, we will provide an overview of the introductory concepts of data mining. Pedro, I would like to request you to please start from the basic definition, the very first thing. What is data mining? I've been hearing these words in international conferences for so many years and did not Google it, so I will be learning from you. What is data mining? Using the CRISP DM model, the most common methodology for data mining, analytics, and data science projects. In all the workshops, examples and exercises will be provided using RapidMiner and our software. So the topic for today, the first of the three workshops, the data preparation step. And what are the contents of this one? Introduction, the CRISP DM, business understanding and data understanding, outlier detection and imputation methods, case studies, and practice with software. Over to you, Dr. Pedro. I'm now going to stop sharing my screen, and I would like to ask you to share your screen, please.
So thank you, Saleha, and thank you everybody for this long introduction. The reason why I asked you to present yourselves is that I wanted to know a little bit of your background, because it's important to know, for example, if you have any basic knowledge of the software that we're going to use. It's different if I take it for granted that you know already some notions of R and RStudio or even RapidMiner or not. Of course, I'm going to take as a principle that you are not familiar with this software, and so I'm going to start very easily. In case that you know already some of this, of course, please apologize. Accept my apologize, but I will start from the beginning. Another thing that I would like to say now is that please take this first workshop as a series of workshops. So I'm going to start with the data preparation step. Maybe I don't know if it is as much as interesting as the second workshop, which will be about modeling. And I think it's going to be more interesting and more maybe useful because you can see results. Today, results are not going to be very clear because we are going to prepare the data for the second workshop. And also the third workshop, well, the third workshop is going to be about network mining. So this is my disclaimer for starting.
Oh, that's please, all right. That's okay. No problem.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you. So please interrupt me whenever you want. So as I said, this is okay. So I'm going to start with a photograph of my city here. Porto is one of the photographs that we can see. We have a river, we have the sea already. In the bottom, you can see another photo which is not from Porto. And I think you know where this has been taken.
Yes, that's very nice. That's very nice.
Okay. So I don't know if I can share. Maybe I'm going to. I don't know if you have. Can I share this? Yeah, I have a chat here. So please let me send you this link. So all the materials are available here. So if you want to take a look at the slides and go together with me. So let me. Okay. So I sent everybody the link.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, to a shared folder where you can see the slides as well as the code for the R software and also some data sets. Okay, so all materials for this course and next courses are going to be available here. Okay, so the program for today, it's this one here that I'm showing you. This is a workshop's introduction. We are going to start exactly as Saleha has asked about introducing the concept of data mining and relate the concept of data mining with data analysis, machine learning, and also data science. Data science is maybe now the most, the word that is, or the expression that we are listening as a hype. Everybody's talking about data science. So maybe I can say that data science is a kind of a hat. It's a kind of an umbrella for everything else. Then we are going to start with very specific issues such as the types of variables, the problems that you can find when we are preparing the data, such as missing values, outliers, symmetry, normalization, discretization, and so on and so forth, as well as visualization and techniques like graphs. So every thing that you need to do when you are preparing your data. In the same time or in parallel, we are going to introduce RapidMiner and R. Of course, we're not going to do this by hand. We need software. And we will finish with some notions of some measures of location, dispersion, and symmetry, as well as bidimensional or bivariate measures such as correlation and dependence. Okay, so this is the program for today. And the next workshops, so the next workshop is going to be about modeling and evaluation. So you are going to focus on machine learning, some main supervised and unsupervised learning algorithms, such as clustering, which is an unsupervised algorithm, and decision/regression trees. These are supervised algorithms. And of course, again, we are going to use R and RapidMiner as well to make some, to have some examples. And the third workshop is on one of my favorite topics. This is maybe one of my main topics of research is network mining. We are going to start with the elementary notions of networks and graphs, measures of centrality and community detection in graphs, link prediction, attributed networks, multi-layer networks, and again with practice with software. In this case, the software is going to be R only. RapidMiner is not very suitable unless we can, of course, consider that some of the data is network data. So network data, by the way, is sometimes called complex data. Today, we're not going to see any example of complex data. The type of data that we are going to use today is data of 2x2 tables. So where we have, you know, rows that are observations and columns that correspond to attributes. But of course, we can think about more complex data such as you know, video or sound or even network data. So this third workshop is going to be about network data and network data mining. Okay, so I'm going to skip the timetable as Saleha already said. So we are going to stop maybe in 1 hour and have time for a short break and then proceed with another part for more focused on practice, but I'm going to stop every time that you need. So please interrupt me whenever you have some questions, and don't let me speak forever, because, you know, in a face-to-face mode, it will be preferential, so that we could see each other and I could have the notion that, you know, I'm being too specific or too, I don't know, too generic. And I think it's good for you to help me giving this workshop in an appropriate manner. Okay, so let me start now with the notion or the concepts of data mining. And of course, from some of my colleagues that I know that work specifically on data mining, and maybe I'm also one of them, but or I started to be one of them. I started with statistics some years ago by teaching statistics at my university, and I work also in statistics at Statistics Portugal. But, you know, whenever you do statistics, I think we are also doing data analysis. So I would say that data analysis is the big umbrella for everything else. And now the word data science, as I said before, is becoming more and more this umbrella. So I don't know what is going to be the future in terms of, you know, the words that we're going to use to classify what we are doing. But I would say that data analysis is maybe the right word. What do we do data analysis? Because, of course, we need to analyze data. And maybe because of the growing of the different kinds of quantitative analysis are very, very, this is very important. You know, it's, I would say, fundamental. This is nowadays a fundamental prerequisite in many jobs, not only for teaching, but also for, you know, for working in different areas. Everyone is interested in hiring someone that is good in doing data analysis. Okay, so what has changed so far so that, you know, data analysis and data mining is so important nowadays? Is because now we are having, well, not now, but for some, I don't know, some 10 years ago, we have been overwhelmed with large volumes of data. This is what we call the big data, because data is coming from different sources, from satellites, cell phones, social media, sensors, credit cards, and so on and so forth. And of course, new opportunities for analyzing this kind of data, for treating this kind of data, using data mine techniques and machine learning data techniques and data visualization techniques as well, has been increasing. So what we're doing today is, in practice, we are doing data mining. So data mining is maybe a more specific word inside data analysis, more specific to deal with this kind of data. Because, you know, because of the big data, because we have computers to deal with this data, and the computing is lowering the price of computing, and because, of course, everything is digital, from credit cards to sensors, you know, you can use this data almost for free. The data is being shared by everyone and everybody. And I would end this slide by saying something. This is not something that is not being invented by me, of course, but is that we have a lot of information, but with little knowledge. Okay, so let me just compare now the differences between data mining and statistics / data analysis. So if we go to the fundamentals of data mining and to the fundamentals of statistics and data analysis, maybe the big difference is here, is that data mining on your left, as you can see in your left-hand side of your slide, the data mining requires understanding of the problem and the business. So you need to be aware of the data understanding step. So as Saleha said before, we are going to follow a model of data mining in terms of the several steps you need to perform a data mining task. And this model is CRISP-DM. So if you follow this model, you will see that one very important aspect of doing, when you want to do a data mining task, is to understand the problem itself. This does not mean that you don't do this in statistics. Of course you do this in statistics, but it's not very clear that you need to do this. For many people, and including myself, sometimes we solve a statistical problem even without knowing what is the problem itself in terms of the context of the background of the business of the problem. And this is maybe more clear in the data mining, I would say. Another issue is that in data mining techniques are less based on the mechanics of the technique. And I will explain this later on when I go to the left-hand side of your screen when I talk about statistics. Another difference, I would say maybe one of the most important differences between data mining and statistics is that in data mining, you don't require many assumptions of the data. So, for example, things like normality, symmetry of the data, having a probabilistic sampling, for example, these are things that we don't hear too much when you are doing data mining. On the other hand, if you are doing statistics, of course, you need to be aware of the kind of distribution that you are using. You need to know if your sample is random or not before going to the analysis step. And this is very important. So you don't take care about that when you're doing data mining. And maybe the last point is that you can find patterns in large amounts of data. This is also important because the main algorithms that or maybe the most, I would say, old algorithms in statistics only worked well with small amounts of data. So of course, this can be, I would say, polemic. This can be criticized. This is not maybe my view of the main differences between data mining and statistics. This is common sense, I would say. But of course, maybe you don't agree with everything that is written here. But I would say that generally speaking, these are maybe the most seen differences, the most understandable differences between statistics and data mining. So statistical models need assumptions about the data. Everybody knows that. Then they tend to be based on sampling processes. The techniques are not optimized for large amounts of data. Usually some of them are only good for small amounts of data because it's very difficult to deal with large amounts of data. And they need some statistical skills and knowledge, like, for example, a very strong mathematical background, a very strong stochastic and statistical background to deal with this. So again, this can be maybe less straightforward, but this is, I would say, what people generally say about the main differences between data mining and statistics. So what can we do in data mining? These are the main tasks, and some examples of data mining tasks. And now I'm going to maybe on purpose make some confusion between data analysis and data mining. But of course, I'm talking about data mining. So pattern discovery. This is maybe one of the most important tasks in data mining. What do I mean by pattern discovery? Well, things like, for example, finding patterns in customer behavior, in order, for example, to classify them as shoppers or shopaholics, for example. Association discovery in supermarket, for example, finding some associations of products that are consumed usually and combine them in market basket analysis, like, for example, who buys product A also buys product B and things like that. Classification. Well, classification is a task that in the data mining perspective means sometimes prediction, because you are classifying for predictive tasks. So, for example, how can we characterize the best days to play tennis? So this is a very typical problem of classification. Clustering, for example, what groups can we form with our customer companies, usually for segmentation and marketing purposes. And forecasting, prediction, how will sales evolve over the next 2 quarters? So this is maybe a very small example of some tasks, I would say the main tasks of data mining. And tasks that need better performance. For example, data cleaning, combining data from different sources, reformat data, like reshaping data. So it's in collect, for example, data from different sources, data-driven decision-making. So everything is related. This step is another step that is maybe not very used in traditional statistics, because the step of data cleaning is indeed a very, very clear step in data mining. So indeed, these are maybe one of the main concerns now in data mining and also in machine learning are some of this. I'm not going to enter in detail with some of this tasks. Well, in data cleaning, yes, and but not in combining data from different sources, not today, as well as other tasks that need better performance, but I'm going to introduce them later on in the next workshop. Okay, so machine learning is something that you cannot distinguish sometimes from data mining. Generally speaking, I would say that machine learning is a set of algorithms that you can use in data mining for some of these tasks that I have introduced before. And basically, or generally speaking, we can distinguish the machine learning algorithms into two different groups: the supervised and the unsupervised learning algorithms. Well, I would say that maybe there is a third kind of algorithms that are mostly used in one of my main research areas, as Saleha said in the beginning, the multi-agent simulation or the agent-based models. That is reinforcement learning. So reinforcement learning is sometimes seen as a third kind of learning. I'm not going to talk about reinforcement learning. So reinforcement learning is not supervised, is nor supervised, neither unsupervised. But anyway, the supervised and unsupervised are the most used machine learning techniques. So supervised has to do with models based on pre-classified examples. So you have a label in your data, you have a target attribute, a target variable, and the system will learn based on this target attribute, and usually the algorithm learns from the pre-classified examples. So this is supervised learning. Supervised learning. You have a target variable, you have pre-classified variables or attributes, and so you have a label problem. In the second type of machine learning algorithms, the unsupervised, this is not the case. So you don't have a pre-classified example. You don't have a label. You don't have a target variable. So you need to, the tasks are different in these kind of things. For example, you do clustering, or you try to find patterns in a data, but without having pre-classified examples. Okay, so I think this is maybe more useful to see what kind of techniques you have from these both sides, supervised and unsupervised learning. So in your left, you have the supervised learning. Maybe the most important techniques are classification and regression. Neural networks, Bayesian networks, decision and regression trees, support vector machines, SVM, are all techniques of supervised learning. So all of these techniques are based on data for which you need to have a target attribute and pre-classified examples. On your right, you have unsupervised learning, where you have association rules and clustering as examples. So these are examples of unsupervised learning techniques. So we are not going to enter in detail today with these techniques, because this is only for the second workshop. In the second workshop, you are going to focus on these decision trees, maybe give you some flavor of neural networks as well, and some supported vector machines, but only as an introductory perspective. Maybe we are going to focus more on decision trees and regression trees, and then clustering and association rules, but more focusing on clustering as an example of unsupervised learning, but only for next workshop. Okay, another topic that sometimes you hear when you talk about data mining or data analysis is the word prescriptive analytics. Yeah, okay, so everybody knows about descriptive statistics or descriptive analytics. So the goal of description is to describe data. Describe data using, for example, the simple statistical measures, like, for example, the measures of location, you know, the quartiles, the medians, the median, the mean, the mode, as well as the measures of dispersion and symmetry, and so on and so forth. So this is using graphs as well. This is the way how you describe your data. When you try to predict your data, so you do predictive analytics, and you can use, you know, time series, regression models, as well as, you know, those algorithms that I have introduced before, like, for example, neural networks, SVMs. These are also algorithms to do predictive analytics. But what about prescriptive analytics? So I know some people that are focusing on studying prescriptive analytics. So the goal of prescriptive analytics is to know the effects of your decisions in terms of predictive analytics, and try to understand how will these decisions impact everything else. So this is the world of prescriptive analytics. This is not only to describe your data. This is not only about describing your data and predicting, but also about analyzing the effects of your predictions. Okay, so this is prescriptive analytics. Okay, and now for the CRISP-DM. So we are going to base all this course on this CRISP-DM. CRISP-DM stands for the Cross-Industry Standard Process for Data Mining. It has been introduced in 2000 by this guy here, Shearer, in the Journal of Data Warehousing. So the idea is that you have a sequence of steps that you can follow, and you should, in principle, follow to make a very good data mining process. And we used to start here with your business understanding that I have introduced some minutes ago. So this is a very important step where you need to be aware of the context of your problem. You need to know about the business itself and what are the needs of what kind of, you know, purpose you have in your business, what kind of data you deal with. For example, if you are doing a financial study in a financial company, you need to be aware of the kind of documents that they use, what kind of information systems they use to produce those documents, what kind of people work there. Well, this is a very important step. You need to know people from this or from a particular organization sometimes. This is not compulsory, but it helps. Okay, a second very important step is the data understanding process. The data understanding is where you understand the data. You know, this is not only about the business, but now you have data. You have, for example, big data banks comprising some databases with some tables. Sometimes you have cents of tables, each one having more than millions of rows. And that's the problem. How can you deal with such an amount of data? So this is the data understanding step. I apologize for this. Okay, so then we have the data preparation step. Okay, data preparation is going to be the scope of our workshop today, because of course we don't have any particular organization with data. So what I'm going to give you is our examples of data sets that are, you know, free to use. Of course, we don't have a particular company for which the data are going from which the data is going to be available for us to use. So this is not, of course, this is a simulated problem. Anyway, in the data preparation step, there are many things that you be aware of. So you need to know what steps you can have and take to prepare the data for the next and the following steps. And the following steps are the modeling steps and the evaluation. So this is going to be the scope of the next workshop, modeling and evaluation. And the last, but maybe not the least, important step in the CRISP-DM model is deployment. Sometimes this is maybe the most difficult. This is where you need to implement the result of your analysis in the company. And sometimes it takes too long to see in what extent is being effective, it's being efficient. And this is going to be the deployment. Of course, again, you need to have a company and a use case to understand this deployment, or to have a workshop on that. We would need a real example. So we're not going to talk about the deployment step. So, okay, so this is the CRISP-DM. As you can see, this goes in a cycle, because sometimes after the deployment, you can go again to the data and repeat some of this. So sometimes it's not a one-way, straightforward way from a spot to another spot. Sometimes you have to go on cycles and repeat this cycle again. Some of these steps are, for example, very interactive, like the business understanding and the data understanding. If you are an analyst, a data analyst, sometimes you need to talk with the company and see what kind of data do you have else. This data is not enough. So the steps of business understanding and data understanding are very close together, as well as the data preparation and the modeling. Sometimes you need to do modeling with different data or data that needs different preparation. So that's why you need also to have some strong interaction between the data preparation and the modeling step. Okay, so we are going to, as I said, to focus our workshop today on this data preparation step. So data preparation, maybe the most I would say general concept of data preparation is that data preparation is the process of data cleaning and transforming raw data prior to analysis. So this is data preparation. You need to clean your data, you need to prepare your data. Sometimes you need to make some transformations of your data, combine different sources and get new data so that it can be analyzed. Okay, so maybe for that, we need to know how data is organized. So data is the source of a data analysis or data mining process. Of course, data is a collection of basically objects and attributes. So there are different terms that you can call to this, like objects or samples or instances or examples or hypotheses or cases or individuals, rows. And then you have, and this corresponds usually to the rows of your data table. And then you have the columns. The columns are usually the attributes, the columns, the variables, the characteristics, the fields, and these are associated with the property of the object. In a very short example, I can say, for example, that we here in this workshop today, if we characterize ourselves, the persons involved in this workshop are characterized for many attributes. If we were characterized by many attributes, for example, we would be the rows in this data set, and our attributes would be the columns, the fields, or the variables. So this is how the data is organized. And now for the difference between labeled and unlabeled data, because this is important for the application of the supervised or unsupervised algorithms. This is usually what we have. We usually have this kind of predictive attributes like A, B, and C. This is, of course, only a sample for you to see. For example, we have 3 objects here, or many n objects, and the objects are individuals, the rows, the observations that you have in your data set. And these are the predictive attributes, like, for example, A, B, and C. A, for example, is a qualitative attribute, like a binary variable, like true or false. B and C, for example, are quantitative attributes. It does not matter now. And then you can have a target attribute, like, for example, a label in our data set. For example, a final category. For example, for the marketing purpose, you have a label or a target attribute. That means that you have bought this product or not. So this is a categorical variable. This is a qualitative variable, meaning that yes or no, you have bought or not this particular product. So sometimes we use these predictive attributes to predict the target variable. In this case, we are doing supervised learning. In the case where you don't distinguish from predictive and target, you don't have a supervised problem. You will have an unsupervised problem. Okay. So now about data sets and databases, I'm not going to enter in detail on this. This would be maybe more for a database workshop or a data warehouse or business intelligence workshop, which is not the case here, but only for giving some examples of databases and data sets that you can use. Of course, everybody knows about the World Bank indicators, the Millennium Development Goals, the general statistics. I have some of them, and I use some of these data sets in my lectures. Okay, so the data is available there. Okay, now speaking a little bit about something that I'm sure that you know already, the types of variables and measuring scales or scales of measure. What is a variable? So a variable is an attribute, and it represents a characteristic of a property of data that, of course, should vary from individual to individual. And the categories, the modalities of the variable are the different values that the variables can take on. Okay, so now speaking about variables, what type of variables do we have? Basically, there are two types of variables, the qualitative and the quantitative ones. Usually we use to distinguish the qualitative and divide them into nominal and ordinal for the qualitative, and for the quantitative, sometimes we call it ratio or interval, or sometimes we divide them in discrete and continuous. So you know about that, I'm sure, and this is going to be important for the workshop today. So in the nominal, the main difference is that well, nominal variables are, for example, gender, race, religion, and the elements are attributes. They don't correspond to numbers, although you can classify them as numbers. And this is the typical for the nominal. For the ordinal variables, you have an order of these categories. And finally, for the quantitative, the use of numbers is also to classify the elements. And the differences between the numbers corresponds to the equal differences in the orders of these measured attributes. So this is more maybe a difference between the quantitative and the qualitative variables. Okay, now for the data preparation step, what are we going to do today? So we are going to focus on this some of these tasks.
Hello. Can I stop you, Pedro?
Yes, of course.
Your
yes,
previous slide, I would like to see your previous slide.
Yeah.
See, you have a qualitative and quantitative data. Generally, then in the quantitative, you have put discrete. Discrete is not a quantitative thing. It's a yes or no, something like that. It should go under qualitative, I suppose. That's what I have read all my life, that qualitatives are which are discrete characters, and nominal, ordinal, and discrete, all this should be under qualitative rather than quantitative. Quantitative is continuous, which is a measurement, and you go one scale to the other scale. It's a gradation. But in qualitative, it's a yes or no, classes, discrete. You can't have a gradation. Then it's a qualitative. I would say discrete should go under qualitative. What do you think?
Yeah, okay, you are, I would say, partially right, in my opinion. Well, at least in this scheme, because the mathematical perspective of discrete variables are more related to, you know, discrete data sets. In the mathematical perspective, I'm sorry, I have a dog here. I think you are listening to it. I don't know if you.
It's okay. It's all right.
Sorry for that. I cannot go there now.
No problem.
So I was saying that for example, for a yes or no in data mining, yes, you're right. We used to say that yes or no is a discrete categorization of a variable, as well as, for example, the age. You can discretize age and put it into intervals, and say that, for example, you have young and old people. So this binomial variable is also a discrete one, and that is true. But generally speaking, age, for example, in the round numbers, you know, the what we call in demography, the age complete, for example, 1, 2, 3 until, I don't know, 100 and some or something like that. This is not qualitative. This is quantitative. Although you can do, of course, you can consider that this is a discrete measure. This does not fit into qualitative. So maybe this, I agree with you that this classification of variables is a very mathematical way of putting things like that. Because when you say that you have a quantitative a variable, you can have discrete or continuous depending on the, you know, on the types of intervals that you have in your data. And this is a very, very pure mathematical perspective of data. But I agree with you. Sometimes discrete is also qualitative. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
I would like to.
Sorry.
Also,
Sorry.
I would like to say something here, but I think Joyce, Dr. Joyce, do you also want to say something here? I can see you are unmuted.
No, not necessarily, but I would also comment, I would split them out as non-numerical and numerical, and therefore, when talking about numerical ones, they would be synonymous to quantitative. So they can either be counts or measurements, which he calls discrete to continuous.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that is exactly what that is exactly what I wanted to say. Actually, just like Dr. Virk, you said that you had been teaching all your life or learning all your life, that thing. But I have all my life been saying to my students that among the quantitative variables, we have these two, and the discrete ones are the ones which are discontinuous. As Joyce said, the count data, like you can have one sister or two or three or four, but you will not have 2.5 sisters. So that's the type of example I've been giving all my life. But I do agree that the qualitative ones are also called discrete. But for me, this came later in my life than what I've said earlier. I mean, I did not know for many years that even the qualitative ones are also called discrete. But then when I encountered it, I thought I understood that it's okay. Yes, okay. Blue, green, yellow, white. So that can also be called discrete.
Yeah, yes, I perfectly respect your views, and I agree with Joyce. She has said and you have said. What I was expressing, for example, in plant breeding, we measure plant height. Plant height is a continuous character, but if you want to say them as tall and dwarf, then you are clubbing the height categories into two. Then it becomes qualitative. It's a simply inherited trait. But when you are measuring in terms of centimeters, then it's a continuous trait, and its description, its handling becomes different than the qualitative two classes, which I used to call as qualitative, rather discrete and qualitative, rather than putting in quantitative. Though the trait is same, but it's how you look at it.
Yes, it's definitely. You can, as soon as you start calling them tall and short, it can be called discrete or qualitative in that sense. Pedro, I would let you continue.
Thank you. Yes, you are completely right. So this slide has not been made by me, so I think this is maybe a more mathematical way. But I agree that in the discrete is sometimes qualitative, of course, and it makes sense. So we are going to focus today on the data preparation step, as I said before. So there are many important steps in data preparation. For example, one of them is data cleaning. So what are the tasks or the main tasks of data cleaning? Is, for example, remove duplicates of the data. Sometimes the data is not cleaned, so you have duplicate. The data can be repeated by many reasons. Another one is to treat the missing values. You can have empty cells, empty data for the whole individual, the whole observation, or only partially. So sometimes you have to treat the missing values, like doing what we call the editing and the imputation. Another important task is to detect outliers. Outliers is nowadays maybe one of the most, well, not nowadays, it's for years, in not only in data mining, also in statistics, generally speaking, there is the whole field of the scientific area of the extremes, the outliers, outlier detection, that you can, of course, that deals with this kind of science to detect and sometimes to correct the outliers if they are mistakes. There are also other important steps, like, for example, transforming raw data prior to processing, where sometimes you need to, transform your data and transpose your data, reformatting data, making corrections to data, combining data sets coming from different sources, and so on and so forth. So you are going to focus more on these first steps of data cleaning today. Data cleaning is a very important task in data preparation. You used to say that if you have garbage in, the garbage will go out. So garbage in, garbage out is sometimes one very important quote in this data cleaning process. So the goal of data cleaning is to fix or to remove incorrect, corrupted, incorrectly formatted, duplicate, or incomplete data within a data set. This is the goal of data cleaning. This is something that
Pedro, I want to say that I love this cartoon because because my students and I have also been doing some data cleaning by hand, and it is a headache.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Sometimes when that's the idea. I know people that are dealing with sensor data, for example, to predict the winds. They have sensors in those how do we call them, those towers that that generate energy based on the wind, and they have sensor data there. And sometimes for some reason that we don't know, they stop collecting data for 1 day or 2 days or just for a couple of hours. So you don't have data for these corresponding periods. And when you try to combine the sensor data coming from the wind with another sensor data coming, for example, from the humidity or, I don't know, other variables for the weather, you don't have much. You cannot link the data, or you can have duplicates on the data. So that's why you have to clean your data. This is a very important step in data preparation. I don't know if you have. Yep.
Hi, Dr. Pedro. Can I ask a question?
Yeah. Yes, of course. I'm happy to answer.
Yes, Dr. Javed, please go ahead.
Yeah. One thing that, especially if the data is in different form that we are not familiar with, for example, the videos or sound or the tweets or the text form, then how can we do this data preparation step within our limited knowledge that we have being using as a statistician? I think this need more of a knowledge about computer science. So do you think that within the training that we all have as a statistician, can we do this step of data preparation, especially for the other type of data, the video, text, and sounds? Can we do the statistician this data himself or herself, or they also need the help from the computer scientist?
Thank you for your question. This is a very good question, because that's why maybe the data understanding and the business understanding steps in data mining are very important. Of course, that if you are dealing with complex data such as sounds or video or even network data, you are completely right. It's maybe very difficult to understand what is cleaning the data here. But that's why we need to have this contact with the organizations that send us the data. So that's why we need the business understanding and the data understanding steps as very important steps prior to the data preparation and the data analysis steps. So I would say that in these cases, when you don't have enough background knowledge to deal with this complex data, that's why you need to be aware of it. That's my answer. I don't know if you are happy with my answer, but that's right.
I would like to say that when you're dealing with an organization, you are acting as a statistical consultant. So I mean, whatever you're doing, all this that you're doing for them. So as a consultant, you need to be in touch with them all the time anyway. Is that right, Pedro?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you are statistical consulting, so you mean that you need to work with them, and all of the questions that you need to ask you, because you don't know anything about video or sound or network data. For example, for the phone calls company, the telecommunication companies, they deal a lot with network data because everything is a network. You can, I make a call, I am A, I make a call to B, so the data becomes more complex. But if you are aware of these kind of things, then you will be more able to understand what kind of problems you will have with dealing with the data, because you are working together with the company. Okay. So I have some typos here. I'm sorry. So I need to correct them, and I will send you a new version of these slides. So data preparation. So this slide or this scheme is not. I'm not the author of this. Maybe this comes from this book here, R for Data Science, which is a very good one. It's from Hadley Wickham. This is my advice to you. Please read it. It's very good. It's free. You can take it from the internet. And R for Data Science is a very good tool, not only for doing things with R, but also to understanding these steps. So although Adley is a statistician, he is aware of the very important steps of business understanding and data understanding, and he imported it also to statistics. And this is the data preparation viewed with more focus here, with the different in blue. You can see the data preparation steps that he calls them the wrangle part. So that's why I'm asking here, is data preparation the same as data wrangling as written by Hadley Wickham in his book R for Data Science? Yeah, indeed, I don't know. So maybe it is, or maybe it's only a part of it, because wrangling stands for this import, the tidy, and the transform steps before doing this cycle and entering this cycle that corresponds more or less to our cycle in CRISP-DM, where we have the modeling and the evaluation. And it calls this the understanding step. So this is a little bit different from the CRISP-DM, and then finally to communicate. This is not only, this is again different from our CRISP-DM, because we don't have this communication at the end. Maybe it's related to deployment, I don't know. But these are different steps of data preparation as seen by the data scientist Hadley Wickham from the R software.
Pedro, I want you to know that not everybody was here in our previous workshops. We have some new people, but we have been discussing this because, we had a workshop series of 5 workshops by Roger and David Stern, and they were talking about this a lot. And then we had these, and we had the CLI sessions, the collaborative learning initiative that we have started. So even after your workshop, I hope that we will have a CLI session in which all these colleagues who are listening to you, we will then go over these things again. So when they were doing it, we were having these CLI sessions and we were reading this book. Of course, we could not read the whole book, but we read some of it. So we have some basic idea. But of course, this is for all those who are attending the previous workshop.
Thank you.
I do want to, Pedro, let you know that the time is now for the prayer. So if you don't mind, can I ask you to give us a break here right now? And then after about 8 minutes, if not 10, we can all be back.
Of course, Aleja. Yeah, it's my pleasure to stop sharing now the slides, and then we can make a break.
This will enable you to give your throat a little bit of rest.
Yeah,
because you are having the problem. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to share my screen with that particular slide which I was wanting to project during the break. And we will, on my laptop is 3:45, so we will meet at 3:53. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back after the break. I will be requesting Pedro to continue, but before I do that, I would like to say that we will be minimizing some of the things later so that more can be covered. Also, I will be requesting Dr. Pedro to be very kind and give us maybe 15 to 20 minutes extra next time so that we can make up for the time that was covered in the introductions, etc. Will that be okay, Dr. Pedro?
Yes, yes,
time?
of course.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Over to Dr. Pedro.
Okay, thank you. So going back to the data preparation step, so data wrangling in the perspective of Hadley-Wickham, it has to do with these kind of things. So this is they call it a cheat sheet, something that you can use to help you using our data to do these kind of things. One of the packages that is used by Hadley-Wickham, it has been created by him in R, is the tidyr. Tidyr is also, there are different types of packages, tidyr, tidyverse, and other packages. And these are some commands that you use, some functions to, for example, to reshape the data, to clean the data. So these are things that some of them you are going to see today. Okay, so now going in more detail with this data preparation step, let's start with missing values. So missing values has to do with non-responses that, for example, may result from data entry or data collection errors. There is a rule of thumb that used to say that we used to say that, for example, variables with non-response rates that are higher than 20% should be properly analyzed or taken out, as they may introduce bias in the results. And the same applies, for example, not to columns, not to variables, but also to individuals, to rows in your data set. If you have a row with your data set with a non-response rate above 20%, it should be properly analyzed or just removed from the analysis. Of course, this is a rule of thumb. You don't have to follow this rule if you don't need to do, or maybe you can correct the data. But of course, you need to be aware of the problems of the missing values and to be aware that non-responses must be treated using specific techniques if you want to treat them, of course. Another
Pedro, I have a question, please.
Of course.
Well, regarding the missing values in case of time series data, well, this is okay for the cross-sectional data, but in case of time series and panel data, longitudinal data, where time dimension is very important, right? So in case of missing a time, let's say we will miss some episodes, for example, we will miss some very important data points. So in that case, if data is missing, how to retrieve and how to retain the time dimension of the data, This is my question.
Yeah, and this is a very good question. And maybe it's worse, not only in time series data, but when you have multivariate time series data. Sometimes you have the data, time series data for different variables, and the problem becomes worse. As far as I know, this is not my field of research, but as far as I know, there are specific techniques for dealing with time series outliers. Time series missing values. So there are specific ways of dealing with this. I don't have an answer now, but I think that, well, as far as I know, there are papers already written. There are some research, not only for missing values, but also for outliers in time series. Yeah, in dealing with that. There are lots of things for imputation techniques and editing techniques of missing values, and of course also for time series. But I'm not aware. I don't know specifically what kind of techniques are there, but they exist. I'm sorry, maybe I was not very, very good in my answer, but this is I'm not aware of these techniques, but they exist. I'm sure that they exist. Yeah.
We can take it up in another time. Yes.
Okay. Of course, and then you have the outliers, another problem that we have in your data. So to start detecting the outliers, one of the good techniques is to make a graphical analysis of your distribution. For example, by using a box plot like this one here, where you have the box and the whiskers in your plot, and sometimes you can just plot the outliers. For example, in some softwares like R and SPSS, you have moderate and severe outliers based on this distance between the interquartile range that contains, as you know, 50% of the central observations between the first quartile and the third quartile, and then plus or minus 1.5 or 3 times the interquartile range. So within this range here and the top, or within this range here on the bottom, you have the outliers. And this is a very good way, and well, I would say very specific, very objective way to detect the outliers. And you can use, tools like R, for example, to specifically identify the outliers. So whenever the outliers exist, what can we do with them? So first, if they exist, they should expressly mentioned and detected and analyzed, because sometimes, sometimes there are errors. And if there are errors, they should be clean, they should be omitted, they should be removed from the analysis. But in some other times, in some other cases, they are not errors. They are indeed very high or very low values in your analysis. And on this case, you need to be aware, because they tend to influence some specific parameters of the distribution, like, for example, the mean and the standard deviation. Usually it is the mean. And if your distribution gets very biased, sometimes some of the algorithms that you use, or at least in statistics, would not apply, because sometimes you need that your distribution has to be symmetric. We need to be aware of the outliers as well, and to detect them in order to proceed. I can give you an example of my work now in the official statistics. We are collecting data from an external organization, a public organization, particularly I can say it's the tax authority. So they are sending us the data so that we can use them. Of course, it's not for financial purposes, it's only for statistical purposes. But what happens with this data is that it contains lots and lots of outliers. And this is maybe one of the most important problems that we need to deal in our unit, is what to do with these outliers. Because sometimes the outliers correspond to very high values to, for example, a payment that some organization has done in a particular month. And but this is not an error, but this is something that well, it has to do with the financial system. And then in the following month, this value can be corrected. And if it is corrected, then we have a match between the original value and the correction. And that's the problem, how to find those matches, how to first identify the outliers and then how to correct them. So this is a very important problem even in official statistics. And this has to do with symmetry, as I said. Maybe one of the most important problems of outliers is the impact. Yes, of course.
Well, in the recent, like in the case of COVID, across the globe, we witness huge turmoil, huge supply disruptions, huge supply chains, issues, and they are like skyrocketing, commodity prices, oil prices are very high, right? So, I mean, in such situation, like specifically in the case of COVID, like if we witness before COVID and then the COVID period, and then now we have new variants, right? So, I mean, most of the macroeconomic financial variables, they have disturbed their path. So, I mean, in such cases, even identification is not a big deal, but now to deal that outlier is a big challenge, So how you will comment about that?
Yes, you are completely right. So in the times of COVID, it has been a more and more important issue to deal with the outliers. So that's why sometimes it's not straightforward. We don't have a kind of a way to solve the problems. Because I think I would say that maybe the first problem with the outliers is to try to see if they correspond to real values or to fake values. If they are, in other words, if the values are real or if they are errors. And this is maybe one of the most important problems. Once that you find that they are errors, okay, so that's not a problem, you just delete them from the analysis or you can correct them. But if they correspond to real values, to values that indeed they corresponds to reality, well, that may becomes a problem, because you cannot remove them. It becomes it's reality. And as you said, and you are completely right, in times of COVID or any other crisis, you reach to very high or to very low values to particular, for example, financial variables or health variables, like for example the number of people that are in the health services. So that's a very important problem. So we never know how what to do. So I don't have a clear notion of I think nobody has a clear notion of the way to follow, but try to follow what is written in the research. So detect the outliers, try to see if they are real or fake, and then well, if they are real, you cannot do anything. Sometimes you can do the analysis with and without the outliers and see the impact of the outliers on the rest of your indicators, but you need to proceed with that.
Hi, Dr. Pedro, can I ask a question?
Yes, of course.
I think your labels are not correct here. The middle one should be positively skewed or right skewed, and the right one should be negatively skewed. So I think the labels are not correct. Maybe some other participant can also comment.
Yes. This is again something that is not very clear, even to me sometimes. So I don't use these words usually in English. I use different words in Portuguese. I'm sure.
But I agree with Dr. Javed. The one which we have always said all our lives, that if the right tail is longer than the left tail, then it is right skewed, and if the left tail is longer than the right tail, then it is left skewed.
Yeah. Okay.
Or we say positively skewed and negatively skewed.
Yeah, that's right. I prefer this positively and negatively, and I don't use this right or left skewed. I usually say the long tail to the right or the long tail to the left. So I'm going to correct this slide again. I'm going to correct this slide to you. Thank you for the correction. Yeah. So, but what is important here is to see the difference between the mean and the median, and to see that if you have a long tail on your right, like the graph in the middle, meaning that, for example, you have something like that. So the most high values corresponding to the high frequencies of the variables are in the low value, in the lower part of the scale. So in this case, the mean is higher than the median. And in the other case, where this is the opposite case, when you have lower values in your scale correspond to lower frequency values on your distribution, then the mean is lower than the median. That's the important part. Of course, the distribution is symmetric or approximately symmetric. The median and the mean and also the mode are very close. You know that. Okay. So I'm going to correct this one because sometimes you can see the left or right skewed, or then the long tail to the left, long tail to the right, which is the opposite case. And now I'm going to correct this. Okay. The last point in data preparation before you go to we still have the discretize, and then we're going to the software part, is related to the data transformation. The data transformation has to do with some things that you can do with your data to prepare it for the analysis. Like, for example, the feature selection. Well, in feature selection, you don't do data transformation at all. You just select the features, but then you can have the feature generation. And in feature generation, sometimes you generate new attributes. That's the data understanding part. Going together with business understanding. When you jump to the data preparation step, you need to, be completely aware of the problems of the data that you came aware because of the data understanding step. And in that sense, you can create new features. So this is the feature generation step. And of course, you are doing transformations in your data because you are adding new variables, you are adding new attributes. So that's why this is data transformation. Another thing that you can do is the normalization. As you know, for example, to make a cluster analysis, you need to normalize your data. Otherwise, you cannot compare, the distances that you use for the distance metrics are not coherent. You need to normalize the data beforehand. Another important step is the discretization. So you have been talking about discretization here a lot. So this is when you change, for example, quantitative continuous variables into, for example, qualitative nominal or ordinal variables. So we do binding there. This is again data transformation. We're transforming the data, we're creating new variables or just changing the existing ones. And then of course you can manipulate variables and values, like for example, you can replace values, you can recode variables, and do things like that. So to discretize, let me show you some of the things that you can do. And I'm sure that you know this already. Of course, everybody does this. You can have different types of discretization measures. Like, for example, discretize by frequency, where, all the bins, all the classes in all the values corresponds to classes with similar or equal size. You can, for example, discretize by entropy. You can discretize by other measures, for example, like having a mean and standard deviation, and make classes with this kind of things of thoughts. So you have different ways of discretizing the variables. So now, I don't know, I think we can change a little bit to the practice part. I don't know, Saleha, what do you think about this? So if you agree, we can jump now to the practice and have the first example that you can take. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'm going to use R and RapidMiner now. I don't know if you want to do this part with me, together with me, or that. Then maybe I can use my the software. Yeah.
I think you can use your software and you can demonstrate.
Okay, so I will do that. So I'm going to use this data set churn that you can find in the course materials. This is an Excel. It's in it's an Excel spreadsheet, but now it's in a CSV format.
Actually, I clicked on that link, but I was not clear how to access the materials. So if you could demonstrate that also, that would be good.
So first of all, if you click on that, I think it's going to work. Let me see. Is this well, I think I need to, maybe because I'm not clicking in the right part of the slide. So if I copy this link here, and if I go to a browser, so could you see the files there or not?
Please also share this link in chat box.
Okay, I'm going to I have already shared, but I'm going to do this again.
That he did, yeah, that was done a long time ago. Yes.
Okay, but I'm going to. I think I just forgot. I'm sorry for that. I think I just forgot to place them there. So now they are there. I'm sorry for that. I created the folder, but the files were not there.
Yes, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, but now you can find them. And I'm going to share the link again in the chat. So you can have it there. So if you click on that link, you will see this PISTAR course.
I got them. I got them. Air quality, motor cars, etc.
That's right. Yeah, okay. That's right. So if you, this is a Google Drive folder. So this is inside my folder. But if once you take it to your computer, and if you open it, you will see, for example, this file. I'm going to open this. I think you can see my screen. So, so this is the file.
Yes.
Okay. This is a file that is used, for example, for marketing purposes. It contains information about churn. So how many people are loyal to a specific company or not. So this is data for, I think, almost 1,000 customers. So they are 1996, I think. Yeah, because the first row is the title row. You have the gender as attributes. You have the gender, the age, the payment method that can be credit card, check, or cash. Then you have the variable churn. It's a binomial categorical variable, loyal or churn. And then the last attribute is the last transaction in terms of number. So it gives you the value corresponding, I don't know, in dollars or euros or any other currency, I don't know, of the last transaction. Okay, so this is something that you can use now to make our example. So of course, the first variable is the qualitative, and as well as the payment method and the churn. These are the three qualitative variables, while age and last transaction are the quantitative. This is important because we need to be aware of the types of variable to make the appropriate treatment. And it's important to know also that, as you can see, there are some missing values here in the churn. So you see that NA corresponds to not available or no answer. So we don't have information, for example, for this person here or this person here. There are many people, well, not so many, but part of it, I don't know. I think it corresponds more or less to 10% of the data set without having values. So what am I going to do now? Let me go back to the course. Okay. And we can consider that the target variable is churn. So what we are going to do is consider that churn is the variable that maybe we want to predict if this is a supervised learning problem. And so now I'm going to use RStudio and R. RStudio is the interface to open this file. So usually, I hope that you can see my screen. Usually what I do is, let me change to R now. Usually what I do is I used to open my files from here. I import the data set. It is here. Okay. I think it's ready to be imported. The first row is a heading, yeah, that's right. Semicolon is the separator. So I'm going to import the data. I don't know if you use this, but this is my main way of opening the files in R. So that's it. So now we have a file. So this corresponds more or less to this command. So by the way, I have the code. So if you want to follow the code later on, just follow what I'm doing here corresponds to the different rows in this file. This the R code PISTAR R is one of the files that I've shared with you. So if you want to repeat what I'm doing here, just follow the commands of R. And as well, I have those comments in the slides. Okay, so that's what I have done here. And then I'm going to do this STR churn so that you can familiarize yourselves with the data. Let me just do that. Or I can just run this command here. What's important here is that you can see the types of variables. For example, gender is a character, so meaning that this is a qualitative variable or a nominal one. Age is an integer. So this is the type of variables that I used to say that they are, quantitative, and they are discrete variables, but they are not nominal. No, remember the discussion that we have half an hour ago, because age is one of these variables. This is not continuous. However, sometimes we call these continuous variables, of course. Then we have the payment method, the churn, which is a binomial variable, and the last transaction. Okay, so now let's do something that I think it's very important when you do data preparation, is start by doing a box plot. Box plot, in my perspective, is one of the most important graphs to detect anomalies with the data, to detect, outliers, missing values, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to do the box plot here. So this is the command here. I'm going to just run this, for example, based on the last transaction. Okay, so for those who know the basics of statistics, I would call this a very symmetrical box plot, meaning that maybe the distribution it seems to be symmetric. You don't have outliers. If you would have outliers, they would appear on the top or at the bottom. You have a box that corresponds, to the 50% of your observations. Okay, so this is not bad. Let me close the window again.
It's probably like a normal distribution. That's
right. It seems that our distribution is approximately normal, I would say, yeah. But now let me challenge you, and let's make so that, by the way, the variable that we are plotting here is the last transaction. So meaning that the value of the last transaction of the payments by the almost 1,000 people in this data set. But now let's make the box plot based on churn. So let's distinguish people from people that are loyal to the company from the people that are not loyal and that just gave up. So
can we make, Pedro, can we make a box plot for qualitative variable?
Yes, no, not for the qualitative. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. The box plots are only through quantitative variables, but you can do this that I'm going to do now, is that to make two box plots according to the churn variable. So indeed, we are not doing box plots for a qualitative variable. We're doing only for quantitative. This is what it is correct, but these two box plots depend on the types of the qualitative variable, one for the loyal and another one for the churn.
All right.
Okay, that's what we have now. So on your left side, you have the box plot for people that churn, and on your right side, people that are loyal to the company. And what we can see now is that there are differences in terms of symmetry. For example, we have outliers now. If you consider that the same variable, the last transaction, now is being plotted for these two different groups. And then now we can see that the variable last transaction, according to people that churn, indeed, it's not symmetric. So you have some symptoms, I would say, of having outliers that have impact on the symmetry of the variable, of course. Okay.
So, Pedro, yeah. If the whisker, it used to be called box and whisker plot. Now I think they've stopped using the word whisker. But that's that right. Line, that vertical line that is called whisker. So the one on the left side, the vertical line is longer than the upper one. The lower one is longer. But my question is that the outliers, those little circles which are beyond the horizontal line, yes. All of them will be called outliers?
That's right. So this does not correspond to the scheme that I showed before, because that was a general scheme. That's, for example, what SPSS is doing. They distinguish the severe from the moderate outliers, but in R, you don't do that. In R, if you just use the box plot function, it produces a box plot like this one. Every outlier is plotted in the same way. So everyone's here. So this is the threshold for the outlier, for the outliers, and then you have the outliers themselves. So comparing this to those schemes that we have before, so we have a long tail on our left in this case. So this is what I believe that we have. Of course, you can make a histogram to confirm this this idea. Okay.
So do you mean that the outliers are also on the left side?
Yeah, that's right. Usually the outliers, unless you have outliers on the top and at the bottom, usually when outliers are only in one part of your distribution, it seems that they are pushing that part of the distribution and taking the average, the mean, to that part of the distribution. So that's what maybe it's going to happen here. If you compute the mean and the median, I would say that in this case, the mean is lower than the median, because it seems to be a long tail to the left in this case, in this churn box plot. This maybe is not going to happen in the loyal box plot.
I just want to say that in Pakistan, we are used to the histogram much more than the box plot, which is not a good thing, but that's what it is.
No, histograms are very good.
But I want to say that if we make these box plots horizontal, then I think they will tally with our histograms more.
Exactly.
Yes.
It corresponds more or less to the same thing. If you see the box plots in the horizontal way, it's more or less what you would see in the histogram. Although, in the histogram, the problem is that you don't see outliers. Usually you don't have outliers in the histogram. You can predict that you are there. You can have a feeling that they are there, because if it has a long tail to the left or to the right, you think in the histogram, you can believe that they are there, but you cannot confirm if they are there. Only using box plots.
But Pedro, if we draw a dot plot instead of histogram, then I suppose we can see them.
Yes, of course. If we draw a dot plot, but again, how can you confirm if they are outliers with a dot plot? You can have the feeling that they are there, but you cannot confirm that they are there, because you don't have statistical measures like this that you have in the box plot, because they are lower than that statistical measure. The interquartile range minus or plus 1.5 times the interquartile range. So that's the okay. Okay. I don't know if you know ggplot. So ggplot, it's a library. I just forgot to write this
again,
here.
For all those people who were here with us for those 5 workshops that me and Dr. Sharka and Zulekha, we did on tidyverse. So in those workshops, we were using ggplot 2 in the first one, where we were doing the histograms, all these graphs, I mean. So some people in this room, this virtual room, are aware of ggplot 2.
Just a note from here. I have tried to run the codes, and a slight complication. Even though the data is CSV, it's actually delimited by semicolon. I can probably share my screen so you see in the chat.
Please. Yes, please.
Oh, do I share the screen, or I just give you a screenshot?
Share the screen. Thomas, Pedro is here. So, Pedro, Thomas said that he's having some problems, so he's sharing the screen.
Okay.
You can just see, so the data, it's actually delimited by
but you can open like that in R directly. If you just use the command, yeah, if you use the command read.csv, it can be like that. You don't have to have the data in Excel format. This is CSV.
Yeah. So this is the challenge that came when I said read.csv, the one I've just highlighted, and
yes.
I run, and then I check the structure. Then I get, if you can see my output, you can see that it's only one variable, and they are putting everything under the same variable.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. So please, okay, so now I see. Please use CSV2 instead of .csv, yeah, add a number 2 after that. Please run it again.
Yep, thank you.
Sorry, yeah. I forgot to say, because this is only for some countries in Europe, in Portugal as well. I would say all countries except maybe for UK that use the semicolon instead of comma. So in Portugal, for example, and in Spain, in Italy, in other countries, we don't separate values by commas. We separate by semicolon. Okay, so it should be a CSV2 instead of a CSV. I'm going to correct this as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So Thomas, you can, yes, Rawat. Yes.
Yes, Thomas, you can use if you have data in Excel, you can use under data tab text to column. When you will apply text to column, the data will be separated with this semicolon to columns in a single click in Excel.
Thank you. Yeah. I think I'll use the split function in Excel.
Okay, maybe we can continue. Please, Pedro, go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Saleh. I'm sorry, I had the problem with the internet in my house. We are having some problem here today, and the internet has been discontinued. But now, let's see if it's going to go okay. So so that's why this problem that Thomas just mentioned is that's why I use this import data set instead of doing the reading CSV, for example, because it depends on the type of format that you have in your data. So that's why I prefer to use the import data set instead and follow the steps, and then you can open as you wish according to the type of separator that you have in your data, so and your regional settings in your PC. So that's why I prefer to use this here. Okay, so let me go back now to the slides. We were exactly on this part. Yeah, and I think I was showing you the output of our studio, where we have by using the ggplot2 library, the kind of output was slightly different concerning the box plots. Comparing to what we have obtained with the regular box plot function. And it is because in the ggplot2, they are also plotting the missing values. So you can see in the third kind of box plot, you have the churn, the churn group, then you have the loyal group, and for the third group, you have the NA corresponding to the missing value. So it makes no sense. So we need to treat the missing values. So that's what we are going to do. Let me go back to the slides. So we need to do this and to detect the missing values as well. I'm sorry, because this should be this is a little bit later here. So, for example, in the slide number 41, this is how you can detect the missing values. For example, if you do this, which is an A, you see, and you run it corresponding to one of the comments that you have here below, here, this one here. So these are exactly the missing values. So this corresponds to the values in your rows, for example, row number 4, row number 12, and so on and so forth. So now it's up to you to know what to do there. For example, I can just delete these rows, make a comment in R, or go to the Excel and delete these rows, or input different values. It depends on what I do, what I want to do. And it depends on the business. I don't have any straightforward idea of the future of the treatment of missing values. What is important here is to detect them and maybe to change them, to delete the rows corresponding to the values, or to input or to replace them. So this is way how we can detect them. Okay. So that's what we, yeah.
I want to ask you, which is better, to delete or to impute?
Well, you have two different situations in missing values. You have the complete missing value corresponding to a row where everything is missing, which is not the case here. You have only partial missing values. The partial missing values is the situation where only some fields, some attributes of the row are missing. That's the case here, in particular for this attribute churn. So what does this mean is that we don't have information about churn for these guys, for these persons. So what shall we do? Well, in this particular case, and given that this corresponds to how many? Let me just see. So let me make a table or maybe compute the length of this so length will give you the number of situations. They are 96. So 96 situations over almost 100. They are 1996. It corresponds almost to 10%. So 10% of missing values here is not a lot. It stands below the rule of thumb that I mentioned before. Do you remember the rule of thumb? It's 20%. So given that only 10% of our missing of this column, of this attribute churn, is with missing values, I would say that it is preferable to maintain, not to delete this old attribute, to keep it in the analysis, but maybe to input values. So what shall we do? Well, one of two things. If you have the opportunity to go back to the business and impute these persons with, I don't know, maybe statistically imputed values, you can go ahead with this idea. Alternatively, we can just delete these cases. If we delete these cases, we are going to delete 10% of the cases. This is not the old column. This is not the old attribute. So I think it makes sense to do one thing or the other. So in my perspective, if we don't want to go back to the business and try to have information for this, we just delete these cases here.
Okay, Dr.
Okay.
Pedro, I
Yes.
think what one can do is simply fit a logistic regression of the churn as dependent variable on the other independent variables, and predict the missing fit this model for non-missing values, and then predict the outcome for the missing value. Keep the other independent variable for which there are missing value for the churn variable, and predict from that logistic regression.
You are completely right. This is indeed one of the ways of doing things, is, for example, imputing by regression. This is what we call using logistic regression to predict the values using the model for the non-missing values. That's completely right. Another way is, for example, using the average of the non-missing values and see what are the other values. The problem here is that the variable is not quantitative. The variable is qualitative. So because you have churn and loyal, so that's why I think you have suggested the logistic.
I was talking about logistic regression.
Yes, you are completely right. So there are different ways. You can also do, input by the mode instead of the mean, of course. And then in that case, if the most part of the cases are, for example, loyal, you just replace that value by a loyal, for example. So there are lots of methods for replacing missing values. That's right. So we are not going to enter in detail on those methods, but indeed this is one of the possible methods to use. In R and also in RapidMiner, you have different ways of doing this, but that's, well, I keep it to you to decide what to do. That's not, as I said, straightforward. It depends on what you want to do, but that's that rule of thumb, above or below 20%. You should decide maybe to maintain that attribute, and then you can just delete if you don't want to go there. Because, for example, in official statistics, we never use, we never replace missing values. Never, at least in Portugal, because we think that the only way to have information is to get it directly from the source, from the respondent, you know, the company or the person that responds to our surveys. They give us the information. We never replace information by another person. Yeah, okay, so there's one exception. Yeah, that's right. The census. Only in census you do that, since we have the hot tags or the cold tags to replace the missing values, because you cannot have the possibility of going there again. But on regular surveys, you know, the survey that we have for unemployment or for, you know, innovation in companies and so on and so forth, you have the contacts of the people or the organization, so you can contact them again. So we never replace missing values. You know, we don't use models to replace missing values. So in those cases, you just delete the information, for example, or you don't have information for that variable specifically. So, okay, so
Pedro, my question here is that my question here is that if from row number 4, 12, 25, churn is missing, but from row number 3, 7, something, this other one, loyal one, is missing. And when I want to analyze, then I should, when I'm talking about churn, I should just ignore the 4, 12, 25 and find out all my means or whatever from the rest of them. Whereas when I'm talking about loyal, then I disregard all those 3 or whatever rows which don't have loyal, and compute my proportions from the other ones, meaning that for every variable, I ignore the missing values of that variable only. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct. At least in some, you know, some areas of the industry, like, for example, let me call it industry, like, for example, official statistics, that's what we do. If we don't get the answer, that particular answer from the respondent, we don't replace it. We don't compute an alternative answer for that particular variable. So we just ignore it. So, for example, if we don't have the job of that person, well, this is a very important attribute, but for some reason we don't have the job or the age of the respondent because he just refused to give this information, we cannot consider it. We never replace the missing value. That's what we do in the official statistics.
The proportion will be the proportion of yeses or whatever will be from only those which are there. So the non-missing, I mean the missing ones will be removed from the numerator as well as from the denominator of that proportion.
Of course, only for that analysis of that variable. Only for the analysis of that variable, of course. For the other ones, if you have the values, you can keep on the analysis.
Yeah, it only reduces the size of the sample. That's what it is.
That's right.
If you are excluding
but differently for different variables.
Of course.
The reduction in sample size happens differently for different variables.
Yes, that's right.
That's right. That's right. And as I said, so it depends on the type of analysis that you're doing. Sometimes it's, imagine, for example, that the variable that you are trying to replace is the unemployment situation or the employment situation. This is maybe the most important variable. You cannot proceed without that. So in that case, I would say that maybe all individuals should be removed because this is maybe the most important variable of the analysis. So in summary, I would say that it depends on the type of analysis that you are doing. It depends on the problem that you are addressing. So given that, you must have a strategy for the treatment of missing values.
And Dr. Pedro, I think this is
Yes.
quite very important issue that this is also need to know whether the values which are missing are randomly missing or there is some systematic pattern. For example, those values which are missing mostly are which were otherwise they were loyal, because your effect, the coefficient that you will be estimating from the model will be biased if they are not missing at random, but they are systematically missing.
Yeah, this is a very important topic, of course. My talk here is not about the kinds of missing values and the multivariate ways of treating missing values, of course, because if it would, well, I'm not also a specialist on that, but we have made we have even wrote a research paper in Statistics Portugal about the way how to treat missing values. And that's right, we can have, for example, the missing at random missing values. You know, this is what we call the missing at random is a MCR, isn't that? Yeah, and that you have also the missing not at random. So you have different types of missing values, and you can detect the types of missing that you have, of course. And depending on that, you should have different ways of treating the missing values. So, of course, this is not the scope of my talk here, but this is something that, thank you for that, I should call to your attention that the missings may be not at random. You know, of course, the way how you treat these missing values should be in accordance to the types of the randomness, I would say, of the missings. Yeah, thank you for calling this point. Yeah. If you want to see, for example, the data without the missings, just type na.omit churn and you will see all the other data without the missings. So this is something that you can also do. So now to go to another type of let me go to, because we are talking about box plots, and that's a way of identify outliers. I'm going to give you another example now with using another different data set, which is something that used to come with R. It's the empty cars data set. So if you use this empty cars $MPG, MPG stands for miles per gallon. So it's this is the data set, a very common data set for containing information about cars. I'm going to do that now. For example, this is one of my this is one of my commands here. Let me just clear the console. Okay, so this is let me show you the empty cars. Empty cars is, I also have it in the shared folder in the CSV format. So this is one of the data sets that comes freely available with R. It contains information about different types of models of cars, and as well as some variables, like, for example, the number of cylinders, the consumption of the car in terms of miles per gallon, the disposition of the motor, the horsepower, and so on and so forth. So, and so if you plot the information, for example, about miles per gallon, I'm sorry, let me show it again. This is the miles per gallon. It seems to be a little bit long-tailed to the right, but without outliers. Yeah. And so we don't find any outlier here. But now if you plot it, for example, for the variable, let me change it now to HP. HP stands for horsepower. So now we are having the same, well, not the same, but another different box plot for the variable horsepower for this number of cars. And then we get an outlier. We have got an outlier. So it means that now there is a higher outlier, meaning that this is a car, a model of a car with a very high horsepower. And if you want to detect this, just type this box plot.stats and then the same variable empty cars $HP, and then if you had $out, you will see that this outlier corresponds to the number, to the observation number 335. This is one of these models here. Just check what the model is, and you will see that maybe in terms of horsepower, it has a value much higher than the other ones. So this is what we can do to detect the outliers using R. Okay. So there are other ways to detect outliers using, for example, the Hample filter. The Hample filter is a filter that you can use based on this MAD measure. MAD stands for the median absolute deviation. So you can compute this, for example, by having this, can compute it by hand or using the function. So in this case, I'm not using the function because there is no function. I'm going to compute it by hand. The lower bound is the median of this variable minus 3 times the MAD. Okay, so the MAD is there, not the function Hample filter itself, but MAD is there. And then based on that, you can compute the lower bound and upper bound, and the values that are not in those bounds are considered outliers. So that's what I'm going to do now. Using this, I have the commas already there. So just compute the lower bound, then the upper bound, and then the outlier interval. So if I just now type outlier int, it gives me the number of outliers. Okay, so now this is for the variable. This is for using. I'm using another criteria, not the the basic criteria or the criteria of the box plots. Now I'm using another criteria. This is the Hample filter based on this MAD function. This Hample filter is based on the MID measure, and based on this, for the same variable MPG, where we didn't found any outlier, now we found 4 different outliers. These are the numbers 18, 19, 20, 28. So this is another way of finding outliers. I advise everybody that are doing this kind of things, preparing the data for analysis, that maybe use different measures of detecting outliers, not only one. This is another example of something that you can use. Okay. And then the histogram. Yeah, okay, the histogram. So we can now I'm going to do something different. I'm going to do the histogram for the same variable, for the empty cars, because we're talking about MPG. So let me just show you the histogram of this variable here. Oh, it's not it's hist. Okay, so this is the histogram. Again, of course, you can change the shape of the histogram by considering different types of columns, of intervals, of course. It's not very clear that you have, outliers in the histogram, so you can change the histogram to show you that. I'm going now to show you following my R code. I'm going to use the okay, I'm going to use the slides, and I'm going to use the first data set again for the last transaction. So this is the histogram of the churn, and then for the variable last transaction, again, I have written it, misspelled the hist command. Okay, so this is now the histogram of the last transaction. So going back to the previous data set, it seems to be, as we have seen already before, remember the shape of the histogram resembles more or less the symmetry of the box plot. So it does not seem to have outliers here. We know that the problem now is the missing values that we know already that we have in the churn variable, not in the last transaction. So for the variable last transaction, it does not seem to have any problem. Okay. So it seems to be quite nice here. And okay, this is, again, I'm not going to repeat all the comments here, so because we don't have too much time. So this is the same histogram, but by using now the ggplot function.
Pedro, I want
Yes?
to ask you, In Pakistan, we are a lot of the time when we look at this kind of a histogram, we say it's normally distributed. I mean, we keep on saying this quite a lot. So from the perspective of data science and data mining and all that, do you think that we need to make this comment every time we see this kind of a hump?
Do you mean
I want to know what is the, is the normality as important as it was like 20 years ago or 40 years ago?
Okay, yes, you're right. As I said before, for data mining, it's not so important. Indeed, it's not. So in the most part of the problems that I see, every paper that you see, please try to see the papers that are published in machine learning journals or data mining techniques. You won't find any assumptions of normality in your data, or even that the data has been taken from random samples, so this is not considered anymore, and this is a problem in my perspective, that I think that you should consider that some algorithms would perform much better if the data would be, without outliers, for example, at least symmetrical, which is sometimes it's not the case in many papers that you see. So I agree that sometimes you can see that this is normal or approximately normal, or at least symmetrical, which is, well, it's good for some of our purpose in statistics, but I don't see this, this concern in data mining papers anymore.
Yes, Dr. Pedro, I think the reason that this normality or assumptions are not important, because in data mining, our major objective is of prediction. So if the model is giving good predictions, that we don't care whether the assumptions are satisfied or not. But for statistics, this is very important to know whether assumptions are satisfied or not, because this has implication for our other tasks, whether the estimators are biased or consistent or not. So these assumptions are very important from the point of view of statistical analysis. But I think as you were talking about, this is not important from the perspective of the data mining.
We're completely right. If a regression model works fine, it means that, for example, the only assumption that you have to take into account is the normality of the residuals. You need to be concerned with that. But if you apply a neural network, for example, which is also based in somewhat in a kind of regression that you have, because you have layers, you have the input and the output, so you have the dependent variables in the independent variables. You don't take care about that. You don't even consider that if the data is normal or if you have residuals. That's completely right. You only care about the performance of the model. You only care if, when you evaluate the model, distinguishing, we are going to see this in the next workshop, between the training data set and the test data set. If the model performs well, that's it's important in data mining, not if the residuals are performing like randomly in the normal distribution or things like that. You don't care about that. Yeah.
Pedro, I need to know, and you to know, and everybody to know that it's 5 p.m. here in Pakistan. So we have, according to our announcement, only 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But if everybody is happy and you are happy, maybe we can have 10 minutes more. And I think we will have to cut down on the verbal feedback. And I would like to request everybody to give feedback in the chat so that we can have more from Pedro and not spend time on verbal feedback today, but hopefully next time.
In my opinion, it can be like that. So I agree. We can have 10 minutes more if you don't care.
Dr.
Thank you very much.
Just one point, that in Karachi the Asar time has just begun. So you are talking about Lahore.
I'm talking about Lahore. I'm talking about Lahore. So 10 minutes more is okay. And if anybody has to leave, I would like to request you to please listen to the recording, because it is being recorded, and Mr. Jawad will be putting it, and Dr. Wasim, on our YouTube channel also, and also in the WhatsApp group that we have created, and those whose telephone numbers or WhatsApp numbers I do not have, please do communicate them so that you can also be put in that chat WhatsApp group. So 10 to 15 minutes more. I'm extremely grateful to everybody. Somebody who has to leave, they can leave. Thank you so much. And Pedro, you can continue.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is to finish this part, and I'm going to start a little bit with RapidMiner, and then I will give the exercises because I was considering to have 1 hour extra for exercises, and maybe if you don't mind, you can do this by your own if you feel that you want to do that, and then give me some feedback, for example, in the next workshop, or if you don't come to the next workshop, just give me the feedback by email. Okay, so I'm going to end this part.
We will organize.
I'm sorry, I could not hear you, Saleha.
I said we will organize that CLI session, the collaborative learning initiative that we have launched. So all the people in the workshop are welcome to attend that next.
Okay, so can you hear me fine? Because I think I am having some cuts here.
I am sorry if I think something is wrong on my side. I said we will have that session in which we will practice and we will do those exercises that we will give. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm going to stop with missing values now, and I'm going to start with the discretized functions that we have in R. To use that, you need to install another package, the package A rules. And then it's very easy. So maybe I'm not going to repeat all the steps here so that we can have the time to go to RapidMiner again. So if you just run this, you need to install package A rules in advance. And then if you use this function, for example, to the same data set, you will find the results, which are corresponding to this. You have the beans. If you are binding the variables, and then you create classes to the variables. Another important step is, as Saleha said before, this is maybe more for statistics. Sometimes you need to, but not only to statistics. Sometimes it's not important to have a notion of seeing if the distribution is normal. So because this has nothing to do with this, sometimes you just do this because you need to. I'm trying to find a better word than that, but I cannot find it. So I'm going to use normalize. So normalize is the way of standardizing. Okay, this is another word, standardizing the data, for example, for clustering techniques, where you cannot have data in different formats or scales or units. So that's it. So to normalize, you can use the function scale. This is something that you can use without needing to install a new package. So if you just do scale churn last transaction, you are going to scale to normalize the variable last transaction. So this is something that you can also do. Okay, so now I'm going to, we have been talking about outlier detection, missing value detection or replacement, discretization of some variables. This is data transformation, as well as normalizing to rescaling variables. This is also data transformation. We could be also speaking about, new feature creation. Well, we have talked about this because whenever you are normalizing data, you can create new features. But this field of new feature creation is a very large field. For some other reasons, you can, have the need to create new features. But then now we are going to stop here, and then I'm going to introduce RapidMiner. So RapidMiner is a software, maybe one of the most used for data mining purposes, not as much used as R or Python. Maybe it's the third or fourth software in the list of the top softwares for these purposes. You can install it directly, and this is that you have a student version or an academic version. You can install it directly from rapidminer.com. We use it, for example, I use it in my classes at the university. So let me just show you RapidMiner. It's here. So this is a very easy to use software. It's not like R, so you don't need to type comments. You have a design view here that works like that. You have a kind of a sequence of little boxes that corresponds to operators. So this is a very important word, operators, and all the operators that you need to do, for example, data preparation or modeling are here. So these are the operators. For example, one of the operators is the operator of reading a file. So you have an operator only for read.csv, or read, for example, Excel file, or read a SAS file, or any other type of file. So you have a specific operator for reading files, and of course another other specific operators for writing files. So this is the way how things work. You have some ways of importing data. You have the operators in here, and your left, on your right hand side, you have the parameters for each one of the operators. So this is the way how RapidMiner works. It's very easy to use, and I think that there is still a version that you can use by using web, like in the RStudio. We don't have the need to install it. You can use the web. Of course, that the web versions are limited. You cannot do everything in the web versions. So let me go back to the slides so that I can go forward in the explanation of the RapidMiner. So if you want to start from the scratch and want to open a file, you need to go for the operator read. And then here in the right hand panel, you can have the import configuration wizard. So this is like the import that I used in RStudio to import the file. For example, if you want to open the same file, I'm going to do that. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to start a new process here, a blank one. I'm not going to change anything. So if you don't know where the reader here, okay, readers should be in data access, of course, read files. But if you don't know where it is, and you know that there is an operator named read, just type it here and you will find it. So read is one of those operators here. There are read.csv, read Excel, read URL, read SPSS data, and so on and so forth. I'm going to drag and drop read CSV into here. And then just double click there and find, and go to your computer and try to find where it is. So I have it here. So I'm going to open the churn. Okay, this is important because sometimes it contains error. That's what I'm going to call your attention to, is that now I'm going to click on next. As you can see, there is the NAs in churn. You remember that we have missing values in the churn variable, but RapidMiner is not going to detect it. So and sometimes RapidMiner does not detect the missing values. So you need to be aware of that. For example, it's easy because you need to, in this step of format your columns in the wizard of importing the data or reading the data to RapidMiner. For example, gender is not binomial. Gender is not polynomial, I wanted to say. So gender is binomial. So you need to change it here. Age is integer, so that's fine. Payment method is maybe also polynomial because you have more than 2 ways of paying credit card, check, and cash. But churn is for sure binomial, not polynomial. So let me change the type to binomial. And when you change the type, you saw that suddenly a question mark appeared here, meaning that now you have 10 errors corresponding to, well, 10 errors or maybe more than 10, corresponding that you have missing values. So you just ignore the errors by replacing the errors with missing values. So now this checkbox has been activated, meaning that you have warnings, and then you can finish because it seems that the file now is going to be read well in good way. And now, so you have the read file. You can just run this, which is maybe very simple. I would say you are not going to do anything. So you just Okay, but you need to connect something. So this is something that you, sometimes I forget to do, because in every process of design in RapidMiner, so you are doing a design of boxes, you need to connect those little semicircles to the end, meaning that you are completing a process. So now, yes, I can just run this. And the only thing that you can see is the file itself, okay? And computing some statistics, of course. So now we have missing values for the churn variable, for example. You see, missing here. There is no missing for gender, for age, for payment method, but we have 96 pending missing values for churn and none for last transactions as well. And this is very good because you can also compute and draw some graphs. For example, you have a three-way graph computing, for example, age by last transaction and gender as well. For example, you have the green dots corresponding to females and the blue dots corresponding to males. But you can also, for example, change the graphs are very good in RapidMiner. You can change it for the histogram, for example, and you can see again. So this is easier, of course, than R, and also for the model. So that's why I'm also using a RapidMiner for this workshop. Okay, so let me go down again. So not going down, but going back. So you have the results and you have the design. You can also go to the design separator here to the, and then to go back to the where we were before. Let me also go back to the slides. So that's what we have done here. So now I'm going to use an operator for replacing the missing values. So let me go here. So if I don't know where the operator here is, I'm just going to type replace missing values. So it should be in the cleansing part, you see here, because cleansing is, well, I think it should be more or less intuitive. And I'm going to do this. So I'm going to use this. Let me drag and drop. So suddenly you see this box has been connected to the previous operator and also to the finishing the output operator. So what am I going to do this here? I'm going to replace the missing values. Again, please be aware, sometimes you don't need to replace it. You just need to delete it. So it depends on what you want to do with the missing values. So in this case, what I'm going to do is to change the parameters. And of course, I only have missing values in one of the attributes is the churn. So I'm going to choose the single attribute here. And then choose the attribute churn. And there are many ways of doing this. So for example, I can choose the average. So in this case, I don't have this logistic regression as suggested by one of our colleagues before. I only have none if I don't want to change anything or use the minimum, maximum, the average, the zero, or a particular value. Of course, I can compute this by hand because in RapidMiner you have also additional resources for doing the programming. I don't use this for this. I only use what is already to be used. But for instance, if you want to do this in R, of course you are welcome to do that. So now it is complete. I'm going to run this. And now this is the output. And as you can see, there are no missing values anymore in the column churn. Let me just go to statistics. So see, missing values are 0 in the churn. All the missing values have been replaced by the average of the missing values. So of course, again, I don't know if this is the best option to take when you are neat, but this is only for you to see that you can do this in using RapidMiner. Of course, I'm not going to enter in detail on the types of missing values, on the types of on the methods that we can. Yes,
Dr. Pedro, how large a data set can RapidMiner accommodate?
This is a very good question because I'm using the academic free version, and I'm not sure, but I think it is limited to 10,000 rows, but and columns. But if you are in the academics, and I think maybe the most part of you here as well as I am. So I cannot use it in my official statistics side because I'm not allowed to do that. But for university, I can do it. And once you download the RapidMiner and you write them that you are using for academic purposes, they will send you a license, and then I think that it becomes unlimited in terms of rows.
Okay.
I'm not sure about that, but I think it's unlimited.
And the columns, you said 10, did you say 10,000 columns also?
No, 10,000 rows, not columns.
Yes.
So this is the free version for everybody. So everybody that wants to use it, you can use it. But if you are in academy, in a university, you can ask for that permission, and they will give you permission. And I'm not sure, but I think that you have an unlimited size for your files if you have that permission. Because I'm using this for bigger data sets, and I'm never limited to that.
Okay.
I just got an email from someone from the RapidMiner community saying that, okay, so you are in the university, so you are allowed, please don't use this limited version. You are allowed to use a more unlimited one. And so that's what I have done. I don't know why, but well, I know why, because maybe I am at university, I am allowed to use an unlimited version. Well, for the size of data sets, not for everything. For example, in this version, I'm not allowed to use this turbo prep. Turbo prep is only available. Okay, it says that turbo prep is not available in the free version. So it means that now I have updated the version to that, but on the other hand, I'm not allowed to use the turbo prep. So there are different things that you can use in the free version, academic version, and maybe other versions, other paid versions.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks.
So I think I'm almost finishing because that's what I wanted to say in terms of RapidMiner. So RapidMiner, with the RapidMiner, you can change and replace the missing values. You can also detect the outliers. For example, you have another way of detecting outliers, for example, by using this. I'm going to do this just maybe as a last thing. Let me just type outliers here. So I'm going to drag and drop this box, this operator. But be aware now that sometimes I'm also a little bit confused sometimes because you have two outputs here. If you just use this, you are not going to see the outlier. So you must drag and drop another link to the finish. So if it is not very clear to you, as it is not for me, this is more or less intuitive. You just drag another line so that you have two outputs, one for the replacement of missing values and another one for the detection of outliers. So the detection of outliers is based on the neighbor in this method, this particular methods, because you have different methods, is based on the number of neighbors. Let me just run this. Okay. And then let me go back. You can also have the discretization by binding. So I'm not going to enter in detail with this because we have already seen this in the R, with R software. You can also do this in RapidMiner. You can also do use the operator normalize, and well, concerning the graphs and everything else, I have already showed this. So what comes next are the descriptive measures that you can also use, and of course you should use to in the perspective of data preparation. You should also visualize and explore the basic statistical properties of the variables using the measures of location, such as the mean, the mode, the median, and other location measures. The measures of dispersion, such as the variance and the standard deviation, and for example, some symmetry measures, some bivariate measures. Everything should be used in this data preparation step. For example, concerning correlation, you can also do correlation. And let me finish by showing you this. Well, I think this is fantastic. This is the data preparation This is what I do in data preparation when I want to do things with R, for example. This is the Data Explorer package. I don't know if you know this. They call it the way to do fast data exploration with minimum code. So you can do data cleaning, organizing data, understanding data, which is a very important, task in data mining. And you can do this with this package, Data Explorer. So let me show you how we can do this in R.
Yes, please, because I'm not familiar with this one. Maybe
Okay.
some other people
So you need to run the library. So as you can see in the code that I've shared with you. And then, so the name of this data set is churn, as you know. So the only thing that you need to do is now to write this function here, create underscore report. That's what I'm going to do now. It takes some time because it's it depends on the length of the file. The data set is not very long, but still it's going to do different things. And now you see that the output is going to be given to you as an HTML file. It can also be given as a PDF, or you can produce a PDF from here. Or so it's a very I would say graphical user interface for you to see the outputs. So the outputs are not going to be given to you in R, but using another interface. So in this case, it's HTML with links. So if I want to see the basic statistics of all the variables, so you have a kind of let me enlarge a little bit the image, so you can see that we have now 1996 columns, rows, sorry, and 5 columns. How many of them are discrete? Of many of them are continuous. How many of them are missing columns, missing observations? Yes, it detects automatically 96 missing values from one of the columns. So complete are 900 with a total number of observations combining rows and variables of almost 5,000 values. So this is the memory that it used for this. And now you have what is the percentage of discrete columns compared to the continuous, missings, the complete. So it's very good for this data preparation step. So you see a kind of a knowledge map representation of all this. And then you have the missing data profile. So you don't have any missing data for the last transaction, for the payment method, for the fee, for the age, and also for the gender, but you have for the churn. How many are there? Are 9%, almost 10% of missing data. So almost 10% of the data of the data set for this variable corresponds to missing data. And now some histograms. So you don't need to produce the histograms yourself because it produces for you. For example, for this, all of these variables, this is for age, for the last transaction, and now by some bar charts as well. One of the good things of this Data Explorer package is that it distinguishes automatically the variables for which you can do, the histograms and bar charts, because bar charts are only, for discrete or for nominal variables. You cannot use bar chart for continuous variables. So this is done automatically by the program. The QQ plots, very important for seeing if the distributions are approximately normal. In this case, of course, only for the continuous variables, the age and last transaction. And now the correlation analysis. Although sometimes it makes no sense, for example, for nominal variables like churn, loyal, but okay, for the others it can make some sense. For example, you can see the correlation between age and last transaction. So because they are both continuous, 0.3. And also it also performs a principal component analysis to see in what extent you can reduce, the number of variables. And the variance explained for each variable in the principal component analysis. So I think this is a very good way of having the notion of your data set for a first preview for the data preparation step. And maybe with that, I don't know, Saleh, I can stop my talk here, and because we are maybe a little bit over the time, and I don't know if there are any further questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Pedro. This was great. If there is any burning question, just one question, please unmute your mic and put it to him. Otherwise, we can, okay, Dr. Virk, you want to ask something? Dr. Virk?
No. It's simply excellent. Pedro, excellent.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Any other comment that somebody would like to make verbally? Otherwise, on behalf of everybody, I should thank you, Pedro, for this wonderful,
excellent, Dr. Pedro. Excellent.
And there's so many things that we need now to practice, and we will be doing that, I hope, inshallah, and we will then tell you what we made of it. The next workshop is on the 30th, and I hope to see all of you on that day again. For now, I think it's time to say goodbye and Allah Hafiz. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Let me just also thank you.
Group photo.
Yes. Thank you for reminding. Everybody is requested to please open their camera so that we can have the group photograph.
Let me take this moment because I think I didn't say this in the beginning, that I'd like to thank you for the invitation, and it was a pleasure. It has been a pleasure for being here today. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
I don't know who is crying, but some child is crying quite a lot. But you see, this is about real life. I think we should.
That's right.
That was an alarm.
That was what? Sorry?
That was an alarm that the time is over.
Okay, all right. So, okay, I think the rest of the people are wanting to hide. So we've taken the group photograph. Thank you very much, Dr. Pedro Campos. This was a great favor you did, and we are looking forward to more. So
it was my pleasure.
Thanks once again.
Bye-bye and Allah Hafiz.
Thank you. Allah
Bye-bye. Thank you.